They used to be the elite soldiers of their time, capable of fighting against entire armies single-handedly. They were the medieval knights, but one thing Hollywood lied about them is that they were slow and clunky. In reality, these men were so fast that they could outrun almost anybody today. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we are going to see how medieval knights were actually much faster than you think. So, buckle up. Here are 10 things Hollywood lied about medieval knights being slow. Number 10. Running speed. Hollywood has made us believe that medieval knights were slow and cumbersome because they wore heavy armor. However, this is not entirely true. Yes, it's true that they did wear heavy armor, but that was only during battles. When they were not in combat, knights would move around like any other normal human being. In fact, there was a knight called Sir Oliver de Chester who held the title of the fastest man in England for running a mile in just over 4 minutes. This happened during the reign of King Edward I. Sometime in the year 1272, he was so fast that even today his record stands. And just for comparison, the current world record for the mile run is 3 minutes and 43 seconds. So this knight was very close to the world record even after all these years. The secret behind Sir Oliver's speed was his long legs, which allowed him to take longer strides than anyone else. And unlike today's athletes, he ran in full battle attire, including a coat of mail weighing around 50 pounds. So next time you see a knight walking slowly in a movie, just keep in mind that they were actually faster than most of us today. Number 9. Horseback riding skills. During the Middle Ages, horseback riding was an essential skill for every knight to learn. It was considered one of the first things a young squire had to learn when he became a knight. So, from the moment they were old enough to ride, they would practice until they were experts. Unlike today's horseback riding, medieval style involved a lot more skill and balance. Knights would have to ride at full gallop while shooting arrows, throwing spears, and even swinging their swords. So naturally, if they could master this, then they should definitely be able to outrun anybody on a horse. In fact, there are many accounts of knights easily outrunning enemy soldiers on horseback. One such account comes from the Battle of Lincoln in 1217, where King John's knights charged across an open field to attack the rebel barons. They rode so fast that they easily outran the rest of the English army, catching them by surprise. So don't let the heavy armor fool you. Medieval knights were excellent horsemen, and they could definitely outrun most people today. Number 8. Sword fighting skills. When it comes to sword fighting, speed is everything. And medieval knights were masters of the sword. As mentioned earlier, they started their training from a very young age, and they practiced with wooden swords before moving on to real ones. Even after they became fully trained knights, they would still practice regularly to keep their skills sharp. And, as you can imagine, those who were the best swordsmen were also the fastest. In fact, there are records of knights winning battles by simply outclassing their opponents. For example, in the Battle of Hastings in 1066, William the Conqueror defeated the English army led by King Harold Godwinson. A big reason for this was William's elite band of knights, who were some of the best fighters in Europe. They fought with speed and precision, easily overpowering the English soldiers and leading to Harold's defeat. So, if you ever find yourself in a sword fight against a medieval knight, make sure you bring your A game, or you'll be outclassed in no time. No. 7. Battle tactics. Medieval knights weren't just skilled fighters, they were also brilliant tacticians. They understood the importance of speed in battle and knew how to use it to their advantage. In fact, one of their main battle tactics was to attack their opponents while they were not expecting it. This is known as a surprise attack. Knights would strike so fast that their enemies had no time to react, leaving them vulnerable to attack. There are numerous accounts of knights using this tactic successfully in battle. For example, In the Battle of Bouvines in 1214, a small group of English knights led by King John himself surprised and defeated a much larger French force. They attacked so quickly that the French soldiers were caught off guard and had no time to form their battle lines. So if you thought medieval knights were slow, think again. They were masters of speed and agility in battle and could easily outmaneuver their opponents. Number 6, agility. Another thing Hollywood lied about medieval knights is that they were too heavily armored to be agile. However, this is not true either. Sure, they wore heavy armor, but they were still able to move around pretty well. In fact, there were even tournaments where knights would compete in events testing their agility and dexterity. These events included things like riding horses at full gallop and dodging obstacles, or fighting while on a narrow beam, or even climbing poles while carrying their weapons. Now you tell me that's not agile, and if you don't believe me, just watch any medieval knight fighting tournament. You'll see that these men were anything but clumsy. No, 5, endurance. One of the most important qualities of a medieval knight was endurance. After all, they were soldiers who were expected to fight for hours on end. They had to be able to withstand fatigue and keep going even when they were exhausted. And they also needed to be able to recover quickly from injuries, which is why most knights had excellent endurance. This was not just for physical reasons, but mental toughness was also very important. Knights were trained to never give up, no matter how bad things looked. They had to be able to push themselves beyond their limits and keep fighting even when they wanted to quit. And because of this, medieval knights were some of the most enduring warriors of all time. Number 4, shield wall. One of the most effective battle tactics employed by medieval knights was the shield wall. This was a defensive formation where knights would stand shoulder to shoulder, forming a solid wall of shields. This made them extremely tough to attack and allowed them to withstand even the fiercest onslaughts, but it also made them very mobile. In fact, the shield wall was so effective that it was often used in conjunction with other battle tactics, such as the charge. When knights would charge into battle, they would use their momentum to break through the enemy's ranks. Once they had penetrated the enemy's shield wall, they would reform their own shield wall and continue the fight. So, despite their heavy armor, medieval knights were actually quite agile and quick in battle. No, 3, chainmail. One of the most iconic pieces of medieval knight armor was the chainmail. This was a shirt-like garment made of interlocking metal rings. It was designed to protect the wearer from cuts and slashes, but it was also surprisingly lightweight. In fact, compared to other types of armor, chainmail was relatively cheap and easy to produce, making it a popular choice among medieval knights. Plus, it was very versatile and could be worn under other types of armor for extra protection. So not only was chainmail effective in battle, but it was also practical and efficient. So, if you think medieval knights were slow because of their armor, just remember that they wore chainmail, which was both lightweight and flexible. No, 2, training. From the time they were young boys, knights underwent rigorous training to become the elite soldiers of their time. They were taught how to ride a horse, how to fight with a sword, and how to use their armor effectively. And they practiced these skills constantly. Not only did this make them excellent fighters, but it also made them incredibly fast. After all, speed was an important part of any battle tactic. And knights were trained to move quickly and strike their opponents before they could react. Plus, speed was also important for escaping danger. Knights had to be able to flee if they were outnumbered or if the battle was going badly. So if you think medieval knights were slow, just remember that they were highly trained soldiers who were constantly practicing their skills. No. 1, food. What a knight ate depended on his social status and wealth. However, the primary components of a knight's diet remained constant. They mainly ate meat, eggs, and dairy products, as well as fruits and vegetables from the fields and gardens. This provided them with the necessary nutrients to stay healthy and strong. In addition to providing sustenance, medieval knights' meals also played a role in boosting their morale. Eating together was an important social activity for knights, and they often shared stories and jokes during their meals. This helped to build camaraderie and boost morale, which was important for keeping the knights motivated and ready to fight. Some historians even argue that the quality of a knight's food contributed to their success in battle. For example, a well-fed knight was more likely to have the strength and stamina to fight for long periods of time. And a knight who was confident in the quality of his provisions was less likely to be fearful of running out of food during a long campaign. So don't think that medieval knights were slow because of their food. In fact, their diet was carefully planned to keep them strong and agile for battle. Alright, guys, that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more amazing videos about medieval knights. Thank you for watching. See you next time.